Hello and welcome to the second edition of One on One by Urban Update. The first quarter result of financial year 2021 was released on Monday. All indicators shows that India is probably in the deep recession or heading towards it. In the first quarter, economy has contracted by minus 23.9%. This is unprecedented in the post-independence era. All sectors are in negative. Only silver lining is agriculture and forests, which have registered a growth of little over 3%. Let's quickly go through the key figures. Construction minus 50%. Manufacturing minus 39.3%. Electricity minus 7%. Trade, hotels and hospitality minus 47%. Mining minus 23.3%. And so on and so forth. Mind you, this is the provisional estimate of the companies who have declared their first quarter result. The other companies who have performed poorly, they have been given time till September to declare their first quarter result. So what will happen? This data, and we are still to calculate the data of the unorganized sector. So what will happen when that data comes, which is much bigger in volume and facing the worst crisis? We will dissect each aspect one by one. Joining me today is India's leading economist, Professor retired Arun Kumar, formerly with Center for Economic and Social Planning, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Before I go to Professor Arun Kumar, those who are participating on Zoom, after that, this program, this conversation is being streamed live on our Facebook page. Just go to your Facebook page and type Urban Update MAG, that is Urban Update MAG. So let's start. Sir, the data that has come out is that on the expected lines? Because in the run-up to Monday, there were economists and analysts who were saying, some were predicting 10 to 12%, some were predicting from 12 to 15%. But it turned out to be almost minus 24% of contraction. What was your assessment before the data came? Has it surpassed your assessment, or is it on the expected lines?
Okay, so the first clarification that I want to give is that I was at the Center for Economic Studies and Planning, not social.
Sorry.
So, and now I am Malcolm Adishashiya Chair Professor at the Institute of Social Sciences after retirement, So that's the first thing. Second is, you see, when the lockdown came in the month of April and the last week of March, you could see roads were empty, factories were not working, the offices were not working, and very few people could work from home. So the economy was not working at more than 25% of its capacity as compared to last year. Only in agriculture, you can say, because it is in open areas, that there was some work going on. But I would dare say that even in agriculture, there was a huge contraction because, the perishables like vegetables and fruits could not come to the market. So in the Azadpur Mandi, which is the biggest Mandi of North India, less than half the fruits and vegetables that normally come were coming. Similarly, in the Punjab Mandis also, and this was a time when the crop was being harvested, less than half the crop was coming. So in other words, even in agriculture, there was a big decline. But suppose we ignore that, and we assume that what the NSO data now says, that is correct. But the point is that, the services sector, the industries, they had all declined by at least 70%, So you had a minus 70% growth rate in the month of April. Now in May, there was slight relaxation from 14th of May, but it could not have gone up to more than 45% of the economy. So you were still having about 55 to 60% decline. And in the month of June, as Unlockdown 1 started, you still did not have more than 60% capacity utilization because large number of industries could not work, especially in the services sector. So whether it be your airlines or whether it be hotels and restaurants, and whether it be various kinds of services that, were there, even in the field of medicine, where, because of the pandemic, there was a rush to the hospitals for COVID, but all other services had come down, whether it be, operations or other things, So the hospitals were complaining that their OPDs are empty. So even in the field of medical, this thing, you had a decline. So only a few sectors were doing well, like pharmaceuticals, because of the requirement of medicines, FMCG, essentials, and IT sector, some component of IT sector, etc. So, basically, if you add up minus 70% in April, minus 60% in May, minus 50% in, June, then you have a minus 58% rate of growth for this period of April to June. So I'm surprised that you're getting only 23.9%, I was expecting that the figure would be closer to minus 50% or thereabouts, And the reason is very simple, that in Indian economy, unorganized sector employs 94% of the workforce and produces 45% of the output. Now, agriculture is the largest component, that's 14% of GDP. So you can subtract that. So non-agriculture unorganized sector, 31%, that had completely stopped. And that data is not included in the NSO data that is released for quarterly estimate. In fact, that data is not even available for annual estimate. So how is it estimated? It is simply assumed that the unorganized sector is working exactly like the organized sector. Now, that was true before the shock of demonetization, but after demonetization, that has not been true. So I've been arguing since demonetization time that our data is incorrect, and especially the quarterly data. Now, many others have also started saying that, whether it be, from the Statistical Commission and RBI and other, financial experts like from HDFC and ICRA, etc. They're also saying that, yes, unorganized sector data is not included. So if you include the unorganized sector data, then the rate of growth is not minus 23.9%, but more like minus 40, minus 50%, So the economy is in deep trouble, because the economy has contracted very sharply in this quarter. Now, next quarter, things will be a little better because you're allowing more things to open up. But let us also remember that the disease is spreading very rapidly. India has the largest number of cases now, and this is the first round. Most other economies started relaxation only after the first round had been controlled and, the numbers had started coming down. India has been easing up when the numbers are rising, So India is the only big country where this is happening, And this is a dangerous situation because the second round is likely to come, as everybody fears, in October, November, as we approach the cold season. That is what happened during Spanish flu and other, pandemics and epidemics, that when the cold season approaches, then the virus again starts spreading much more rapidly. We have not tamed the first round and we are approaching the second round. So therefore, there's a huge uncertainty in the economy, and that's why consumption is down, investment is down, and employment is down, So these are the factors because of which I think the economy is suffering a lot. And the second quarter may be a bit better than the first quarter. But if we take the unorganized sector data into account, it'll be still much worse. So in the year as a whole, the rate of growth will be something like minus 30, minus 35% at a very optimistic guess. Because, even if we recover to the January 2020 situation in 1 year's time, then going from minus 75% to 0% will give you minus 37.5%. And that is the reason why our government's tax resources are also come down dramatically. And that's why the states and the center are having trouble regarding GST and various other things. So all told, the economy is in a very bad shape. It is the worst performing economy amongst all the G20 economies, China, in fact, has recovered to a positive rate of growth from minus 6.8% in the first quarter of this year. But other economies, the British economy is the worst, minus 20.4%. But we are even much, much worse than that. And the reason why we are performing much worse is that the unorganized sector is very huge in the Indian economy. And the unorganized sector consists of poor people with very low incomes, very low working capital, and they completely stopped in the lockdown. And when they stop, unemployment rises and output falls, and the economy has gone into a depression. This depression is the big problem, because now the sentiment, of the consumer, of the investor, that is down, and that is not likely to turn around very quickly.
Right, right. Sure, that you have presented, based on that, will you say that Indian economy is already in deep recession, or it is still inching towards that? Will you call it an economic emergency situation?
So, we are in a depression, not just a recession. Recession means 2 quarters of decline in the economy by maybe -3, -4% or so. And, the expectations don't change dramatically. But now, if we are in -23.9% officially, and this second quarter also officially will show a very sharp decline, because the economy has not yet revived. Large segments of the economy are not working properly, whether it be hotels or malls or restaurants, or your airlines, your travel, transport, railways, which run 14,000 passenger trains every day. They are running hardly 500 passenger trains every day. So you can see that major sectors of the economy, and therefore there are spin-off effects. When the airlines don't work or the railways don't work, then all the associated trades with that, they also are not able to perform. Similarly, if malls and hotels and so on don't work, then you can see that even agriculture gets affected. Demand for agricultural produce comes down, like we saw during demonetization. And that's why, in the farms during the month of March, April, May, and June, you found that the vegetables and fruits were rotting, and they had to be plowed back into the soil because it wasn't worth harvesting and taking it to the city. You had pictures of farmers of Punjab throwing the Shimla mirch on the roadside because they were not even getting 1 rupee per kilo, whereas in the Delhi market it was selling for 60 rupees a kilo. So the demand for various vegetables and fruits, similarly floriculture, that has declined because we are not able to ship it to Europe where it used to go. So you had a decline in demand for milk, you had decline in demand for eggs because people were, the midday meal scheme had stopped, and therefore the eggs that were supplied for midday meal scheme, they were not there. So you have a disruption in all sectors, whether it be education, health, etc., and they're not reviving quickly. So therefore the rate of growth will be down, and therefore I'm saying that it's a depression. Depression means that expectations have gone down. Even the rich people are not buying discretionary items. So if you want to buy a shirt, you can always buy it 3 months later. You don't need to buy it today. If you want to buy a car, you can buy it later. But the demand for cars has picked up because a lot of people want to use personal vehicles rather than use public transport. But that is one shot, and I think that will peter out very quickly. Similarly, two-wheeler demand has picked up. That will also peter out very quickly. So you have some pent-up demand or demand pertaining to the pandemic, which will be there. But otherwise, most other sectors, things are down. Now, these expectations will not revive quickly. So you will not have a V-shaped recovery. The government keeps saying V-shaped recovery. It's like you saying that if you bounce a rubber ball, it'll come back to you immediately. So economy is not like a rubber ball. Economy has real people. It has real, economy. So when production is down, employment is down, when people's incomes are down, the employment is down, and therefore that is not going to recover very quickly. When people feel very uncertain because the pandemic is still going on, pandemic may hit again in October, November, so they will preserve cash. They're not going to spend. So even if they have some savings, they're not going to spend it because there's a lot of uncertainty. You can see even in the organized sector, like in media, a lot of people's salaries have been cut. A lot of people have been retrenched. So even media has suffered very badly. You can see the newspaper size has come down from 20, 30 pages. It's down to barely 12, 14 pages. Advertising is down, because companies are advertising less. So all told, it's not going to be a quick recovery. It's going to be a very shallow, what I call a shallow U-shaped recovery.
Right. I was coming to that only because government has fielded its chief economic advisor, Mr. K. Subramaniam, and he has been talking different news channels on the numbers. Two important things. One that you talked about, that he talked about V-shaped recovery, that we have hit the rock bottom, and now the output will start looking up. And second, he said that worst is over. Do you agree? Because there are people who say worst is yet to come.
No, so, the worst was during lockdown in April. And as I said, it was down 75% then. And then in the month of May, it was down about 60%. And then in the month of June, it was 50%. So certainly there's a pickup, and that's to be expected, because as you ease the lockdown, more people are able to go to work, more people, more transportation is there, etc. So certainly, but the question is it going to be an immediate recovery? That's what V-shape implies, or it's going to be shallow. That means you'll remain, much below the last year's level for several months. So my argument is that it will be a very shallow U-shaped recovery. At a very optimistic guess, it will be not less than 1 year before you go back to January 2020 situation. And second point is that you'll never go back to January 2020 situation, because your structure of production is going to change. There'll be a lot more automation. People are not visiting shops, they are doing e-commerce. So e-commerce will do well, but a lot of shops will close down. So what you'll find is a lot of real estate will be vacated. Many big companies are now planning for work from home. So they'll vacate their real estate, big offices, and they'll move to smaller offices. So real estate will be down. So a lot of consequences of the pandemic will play out in the coming 1 year. So you'll never recover to January 2020. You'll recover to a much different kind of an economy. So therefore, it's not that you are going to rebound, within a short space of time. It'll be a shallow U-shaped recovery to a new normal. It will not be January 2020, but a new normal. And in the new normal, the way we produce, the way we do things may be quite different from the way we were doing in January 2020. Because even if a vaccine comes by, say, November, it'll take at least 2 years to vaccinate everybody in India. So our problem with the virus and the pandemic will continue for at least a year, year and a half. And during that period of uncertainty, production cannot recover back, especially services. A lot of services which require close contact between people, that will be affected very badly. So whether it be hotels, or it be restaurants, or it be airlines or travel, these big sectors, they'll be in trouble. Real estate will remain in trouble. And in finance also, there'll be trouble, because a lot of businesses will fail. As All India Manufacturers Organization suggests, 30% small businesses are going to fail. And the CATE, the Confederation of All India Traders Association, suggests that 30% retail traders will fail. So if such a large failure takes place, it will affect our financial sector. So the banking sector will also be affected by all this. So huge uncertainty going forward. And therefore, there is unlikely to be any kind of full recovery in less than 1 year, Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, as you were talking about consumption, government gave a package of 20 lakh crores. It could somehow sort out the supply side of it. But the fact remains, and as you said, that the consumption and demand is not picking up. And unless that happens, the positive growth doesn't look like a possibility. And as these are uncertain times, people are worried about their jobs, there are being salary cuts, leave without pay. So they are clutching on to whatever saving they have. So there is just essential spending, not discretionary. As you said, people defer their decision to buy even a shirt, that we can do it after 3 months when the situation improves. In this situation, do you think the situation will improve in the second quarter or third quarter or even the fourth quarter? Or we are looking at a situation where the entire financial year of 2021, all 4 quarters will register a negative growth?
As I've already said, we are not likely to recover in less than 1 year, which means that, on all quarters, there'll be negative growth. Because we started with a very, very negative situation where, in April, it was minus 75%. And, the economy was already doing poorly before that also. So in the last quarter of last year, we were already slipping to 3.1% growth. But that did not include the unorganized sector, as I said. So we were close to 0% or negative rate of growth already. And therefore, the slippage that has taken place from that very low base. So it's very difficult to see that any revival would take place, because investment has to revive. But when capacity utilization is as low as 40, 50%, then investment will not take place. So investment has been cut back, and many businesses which face failure, they are certainly going to add to negative investment, because when they fail, it'll be like a negative investment. So investment will remain very low for this year until the situation clarifies. There are only a few sectors where investment will take place, the sectors that are doing well, whether it be pharma or FMCG or some IT sector and things like that. But other than that, a lot of sectors are going to, not invest more. And without investment, rate of growth doesn't pick up. Similarly, consumption will be way down because of the uncertainty. Large number of people have lost income. As I said, if 20 crore or more people have lost employment from unorganized sector, then they are not going to be spending much. Whatever they get is going to be barely enough for their essential consumption, and they'll certainly not do any discretionary consumption. So large number of people in the middle class who have lost work, large number of people in the unorganized sector who have lost work, they cannot consume more. It's only the well-off sections that could consume more, but they are also facing deep uncertainty, and therefore they are not going to increase their consumption very much. So all told, consumption will be down, the investment will be down, and the exports are down because the world economy itself is suffering. So India will not be able to export as much as it used to do earlier. And therefore, all three engines are down. Now, government could have picked up its expenditure. That's the fourth thing that could have been done. But the 20 lakh crore, only 2 lakh crore is coming from the budget. Rest is all credit and loans. Now, businesses will not take more credit and loan until they pick up. Because if they don't, if they're not to produce more, why would they take more credit? If they're not investing, they're not going to pick up credit. So the RBI has been cutting the repo rate and the reverse repo rate with the view that maybe investment will pick up. But banks are saying that people are not coming forward to take loans, and the reason is that they're not investing more. They are cutting back on production, so they don't need credit. So banks are depositing 8 lakh crores with the RBI under reverse repo. Okay. And RBI is telling them, you loan it out to the business people. They're saying, look, business people are not coming forward to take loan. So therefore, in a sense, you have a situation where this credit and other things that are announced in the 20 lakh crore package, that is not going to work very much. It's only the 2 lakh crore, and that's quite inadequate, because if the economy is going to be down by 30 or 40% over 204 lakh crores, then you're going to lose about 70 lakh crores of output. Now, 70 lakh crores of output cannot be, supplemented by the government giving 2 lakh crores or 3 lakh crores. It has to give at least 14, 15 lakh crores to boost the economy. So the government's package is very, very inadequate. In many other countries, for instance, US, etc., they have spent 15% of GDP in providing support to businesses and providing support to the workers. Our package is only about 1% of GDP, So it's very inadequate. We need to generate more employment through the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So we have given only 1 lakh crore at the moment. We need to give at least 3 to 4 lakh crores. The urban employment generation also has to be boosted. So something similar to the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme should be started in the urban areas also. And then the cottage sector, which has lost its working capital, they need to be provided support by giving them, effective support through the government. So all told, at least 15, 18 lakh crores is required to keep the economy going. If you don't do that, then demand will remain short, and the markets cannot correct because markets are failing. So the burden has to fall on the government, and it will have to increase its deficit. The deficit is already very high, but the deficit will have to remain high so that, demand can be boosted. And for that, where will you raise the resources? So the banks have 8 lakh crores of surplus funds that can be taken through COVID bond. Then the wealthy people are very wealthy and they have funds. You can float COVID bond and take funds from them. Then the RBI will have to monetize the deficit, the balance of the deficit. So all these three resources have to be tapped so that the government can increase expenditure,
Right.
and that will lead to increased demand.
Right. I have 4 or 5 more questions, and we will run through them one by one quickly. As you're talking about how to boost the consumption and demand, economists are arguing that you need to put money into the hands of the people. If you need to print more, you print more, because 20 lakh crore, as you said, is not enough, which is hardly 1% of the GDP. So unless people have the money which they can spend, there cannot be a boost in demand and consumption. Do you think the government should print more if they don't have money? But apparently they have, but it's in the form of credit and loans.
So, the 20 lakh crore, only 2 lakh crore is being directly given to the poor from the budget, and the rest is all, like 9 lakh crore from the RBI through liquidity and through, repo rate, reverse repo rate, CRR cut, etc., etc., and the others. And also the government has announced long-term policy measures like, regarding ISRO, regarding, the atomic energy, regarding aircraft maintenance, etc. So government needed to do short-term immediate policy rather than long-term supply side things, which may or may not work. So what you needed to do was, instead of giving 2 lakh crore, give at least 15, 16 lakh crore, from the budget to the micro sector, to the unemployed young people, to the rural areas, to the urban unemployed. If you do that, then only the economy will pick up, because, there'll be demand then, and that demand will lead to increase in the economic performance of the industry and services. Without that, it is not going to automatically on its own rise. So the government is being very timid in a sense by only giving 2 lakh crores out of the budget. It has to be much more bold. And the worry that it will create a huge fiscal deficit, the fiscal deficit is already huge. We have already crossed the full year fiscal deficit in July. So the fiscal deficit is running at, not 4% or 5%, it's running more at 15% of the GDP. And if it rises to even 25% of GDP, it doesn't really matter at this stage, because without that, your economy is not going to come up. And if that happens, your fiscal deficit will rise. And then if you cut that by cutting expenses, then you're going to be in trouble. So you should cut all the inessential expenditures, but you should raise expenditures on giving money to the poor people, on increasing investment in, say, education and health, which are employment intensive areas, rural infrastructure. So these are the kind of things on which, if it's spent, then there'll be employment and there'll be demand, which will revive the economy.
Right. Quickly coming to, because this has been talked about in between the state and the center, which is GST. Now we have seen the figure of % less than what was it in July, and if we compare it year on year, that is August 2019 and August 2020, it is 12% less this year. Government is saying we don't have money, we cannot give you the GST compensation part. You borrow it from RBI. The states are saying, why should we borrow? You borrow from RBI and give it to us. In finance ministers of various states have written to the center. All the state governments' budgets that they presented this year for the financial year 2021, be it Maharashtra, Punjab, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, it's more than deficit of 50,000 crores and above. If they don't get GST compensation, how badly the situation is going to be? And you see a situation where the state governments will not be able to pay the salaries to their employees.
Yeah, so, because the economy is down, even the first quarter results minus 23.9%, but as I'm saying, it's down by at least 40 to 50%. So therefore, the budget calculations have completely gone haywire. The budget was, the central government's budget was calculated at 10% nominal growth of the economy. Now, instead of 10%, if you have minus 40, minus 50%, that means your revenues are going to be much less, and your expenditures, unless they are curtailed, your fiscal deficit will shoot up to 40 to 50% of GDP. So the resources are not there with the center, the resources are not there with the states. The GST collections are going to drop. And this July, August figures, we don't know what these figures stand for unless they're corrected, because these may be gross figures. Many businesses are complaining that they're not getting the input credit, and the June figures were a lumped up figures because, you're given companies time to file their returns till June 24th. So, what they didn't file in March, April, they filed in June. So all told, the GST figures are very confused at the moment. There's no full clarity. And that's why, the center says that we are not able to compensate because their resources are down. Corporate tax collection will be down because a lot of companies are going to run into losses. They have not been able to work for 3, 4, 5 months, Income tax collection will be down because 18.9 million from the organized sector are down. And if 30% businesses fail, then a lot of firms will not pay income tax, So your income tax collection, your corporate tax collection, your GST collection, customs duties, excise collection, they're all going to fall. The only saving grace for the government is that they have raised taxes on petroleum goods, because petroleum goods prices have fallen, but they haven't allowed the petroleum prices to fall. They have absorbed that. So, but for that, everything else will be down to half of what was there last year. And therefore, neither the states have the money nor the center. So there's a financial emergency. And the budget has to be redone because the revenue has to be recalculated and expenses have to be, the non-essential expenses have to be curtailed so the essential expenditures can be met. So it's a very dire situation. The government must come out openly and admit it's a dire situation and then redo the budget. The states also have to redo their budgets. So neither the center has the fund nor the states. And that's why many states are saying we don't have money to pay salaries. So in Delhi, you saw that the municipal corporation has not paid salaries to doctors, and the doctors were on strike, the nurses were on strike. Now, doctors and nurses should have been given their salary the first. But the problem is that the government servants think that they should get their salary first. Now, if 80 crore people have slipped below the poverty line, then government servants cannot say that we should get the same salary as we were getting earlier. So everybody in the economy will have to take a cut if the economy is down by 20, 30, 40%, So the government servants' salaries and organized sector salaries, they have to be also brought down so that we can get enough funds which can then be used to pay for the unorganized sector, pay for the micro sector, pay to the farmers, etc. So all told, the financial situation of the economy is very bad. It's dire. We need to really do something immediately.
Right. One last question. Let's talk about the unemployment rate. The data that we have, it shows that unemployment rate has gone up in the month of August compared to July. Roughly, the projection has been that in the urban centers it's about 10%, and in the rural areas it is 8%. Do you think these figures are accurate, or the number is much higher?
Yeah, so my argument is that the government has not been giving the employment data. This is coming from ILO and CMIE, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, but you see the sample frame that they use is based on the 2011 census, but with large number of people migrating, the migrants are not included in these frames. And therefore the unemployment figure would be far larger. The CMI said that in April, 22 million people had lost jobs, of that which 14 million were from the organized sector. But my contention is that the unorganized sector, non-agriculture, completely stopped working. So some like 200 million people would have lost work. Now I make a distinction between employment and work. Say if you're an Ola driver, then you're employed, but you're not working because your taxi cannot go out. Your factory is closed, so you're employed, but you're not working. So the impact on GDP is far greater. So we need to count how many people are working. So even in rural areas, for instance, you had a situation where fruits and vegetables were not being harvested. So there was unemployment there also. So that did not get counted also. So there are many, so you have to distinguish between employment and work. Government servants are going for alternate days. That means they're getting their full salary, they're employed, but working half, Similarly, teachers are working from home. They're not able to, give that many classes. Students are not able to attend. So their work has come down, compared to earlier. So this distinction between employment and work is very important. So work was cut down by more than half, in the economy. And that is not getting counted. So simply saying that employment is only 8% or 9% doesn't make sense. I think, even the rural employment guarantee scheme, which rose by a factor of 3 or 4 in many states, and they exhausted their entire year's budget within a matter of 2-3 months because the demand went up. So people who had returned to rural areas, they had left their work in the urban areas. So they're doing residual work. They're not doing the work that they used to do. So therefore, in the GDP calculation, their work has to be differently calculated. Now, employment figures are important for calculating GDP. So the employment figures will give an overestimate of the GDP also. So we need to count work rather than employment. And the work is way down, even if employment has not come down so much, because people who are employed with their firm but not working, they'll count as employed, but they're not working. So if the shop is closed and the workers of the shop, they are still on the rolls of the shop, but they're not going to the shop because shop is closed. So therefore, you know, we have to distinguish between employment and work, and that is why work needs to be counted.
Right, right, Professor Arun Kumar. Picture is really grim. The deficit could be anywhere between 40 to 50%. Contraction could be, as you said, around 38%. Uh, Government certainly, as you said, to do much more than the 20 package and put more money into the hands of the people. Let's wait and see what the roadmap vision that the government comes out with to revive this ailing economy and get the country out of this economic emergency. For the moment, let's leave it there. Professor Arun Kumar, thank you so much for so lucid explaining to our audience, viewers, the actual picture of the Indian economy. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.